Dear Lord, we do thank you again for this day. We thank you for your divine protection, for your arms of mercy around this city. We thank you for your divine guidance over our leaders. We pray, Lord God, tonight that you will give them the wisdom that is necessary to continue to lead and guide this city in the direction that you would have it to be. Bless this meeting tonight. We give you glory and honor. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen.
Amen. Commissioner Abraham, would you do the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to its republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
City Manager, do we have any additions or deletions tonight?
There are none.
Thank you. At this time, before we get into our presentation, I'd like to call Amy up to the podium to talk about the dog park. We have been working, a group has been working to raise the additional funds for the dog park. So I'm going to let Amy talk a little bit about that, and then maybe some of the group here might want to say something.
Okay. As you can see right here, there's a picture of Stuart Nelson Park. The intended space for the dog park is the section on the right. You see the yellow ring around it, that's the road. And that entire area there, which is a little more than 7 acres, will be dedicated to the dog park. There's a creek that runs down the middle and literally splits it in half. So half of the park will be for the large dogs and the other side will be for the smaller dogs. To date, we've raised $16,760 of the $20,000 that we're supposed to raise before the city will help contribute to that amount.
Okay.
Would you put that picture back
Yep.
up again, Amy?
Well,
You don't have a pointer, do you?
I do not.
The part right here,
Yes.
and this is the creek that separates
Mhm.
the property. So this would be
The entire thing.
I know, but which side?
Yeah. Oh, that hasn't been determined yet. Which side will be for large or small?
Large dogs and small dogs.
Yes, and there's actually going to be a parking lot now that's going to be constructed as part of the project, just on the other side of the main road. And then once we get to we're getting to the point where we're going to start talking to people, and a lot of the people that have helped raise funds will get to have some say on where the gates go and the entries and all of that kind of stuff. So we're not exactly sure how we're going to set it up yet, but that whole section will be used for a dog park.
So the discussion tonight, commissioners, is, in the past we've, when we were working on the skate park, when they got pretty close to having the funds to do that, we said, let's go ahead and get going on that. So we only have about $3,500 more that we need to raise. And
Right.
I know I've still got a couple more pretty big pledges coming in. So we're really, really close.
Right.
So that's what Amy's here tonight, and all these folks out here that have worked so hard and want this dog park. And it's certainly a quality of life issue for Paducah. It's a great thing for young people, especially, because it is a good way to socialize with other folks as well as your dogs to socialize. Do any of you all have anything to say tonight? Would you like to, Lorraine? Come on up. It's okay. We'll let everyone see Sophie.
Well, Sophie wants a dog park. We've already talked about it. The other thing that I wanted to bring up, there is just a little bit of a shortfall, but we who are doing the fundraising and the contacting, whatever, are not going to stop. We think the spot that is designated is wonderful. We think there could be a second place in Paducah, even a third place, who knows. So we have a lot of people that have said they will still be contributing. So I think that, the funds will continue to come in. The other interesting part is that we're getting funds two ways. Some are just people that want to contribute. Others are people that would like to see a dog plaque hanging on the fence that will be surrounding the park. in memory of their past pets or their friends' pets or their current pets or whatever. So that was a real good idea. I don't know who thought of that at the very beginning, but that's a nice thing that's happening. The other thing I would add to what Amy's presentation is there will be a shelter where you can watch your dogs run and all this, and there will be plumbing so the dogs will have water. So, this could be a really nice thing.
Actually, I think maybe even 3 shelters
Is there
within
3
that
shelters?
area.
There's 3 now. I haven't, Mark just told me about the expansion of it today, so I haven't actually heard from him whether or not those shelters are going to stand. But right now they're in good condition and could definitely stay.
And, the funds are coming in so quickly. When we started this about 6 weeks ago, Gail and I got back on track on this, and since then we've collected close to $6,000, I think. And as I say, today I just sent a whole bunch more over to Amy. We have kind of a couple of time a week run that we send the runner over there with some money for her and to the fund. So it's going to happen, and I don't think it's going to be any expense in the long run to the city for our commitment. So thank you.
Thank you, Lorraine.
Thank you.
And thank all of you all who have supported this. So
Thank you.
it's not really up for a formal vote. It's just kind of an agreement that we'll let them go ahead and start on the process. Are you all in agreement on that?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, sure. I really think the idea of the memorial plaque is because I just recently lost my dog, one of my dogs, and unless you have a pet, and you guys know how it is. I mean, we got Laddie when my youngest daughter was 2. Well, she's 20 now. So he was with us a long time, and I think that's a good idea. Hey, I'll have Laddie's name up there, right?
I certainly think so. I know of some people that are going to contribute, and I know the money will continue to come in, so I think it's great.
All right. Well, let's get started, Amy.
Yep, sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And our presentation tonight is McGrath Employee Compensation Study. Cindy? And Cindy, you have Victoria with you tonight?
Yes, ma'am. I'd like to introduce Victoria McGrath with McGrath Consulting. She's been working on her compensation for some time now. She's been meeting with directors. We spent the last day and a half meeting with each of the directors, talking through the implications of this study. I'd like to turn it over to her for her presentation.
Victoria, thank you.
Thank you. As Cindy indicated, I'm Dr. Victoria McGrath. I'm CEO of McGrath Consulting. We are a firm out of Northern Illinois. We had the pleasure of speaking with you many years ago because we were the group that did your fire department study. And let's just say after meeting your new chief, your fire department definitely has gone leaps and bounds over when we were first here, so you should be congratulated for that. For the past year, we have been working on a classification study. What I'd like to do is today is present the overview of that study. My understanding, and I would not recommend at this point in time that you approve the study, other than the fact that here's the information for it, and Cindy will come back to you later with the finalization of the salary ranges for your approval and going forward. I understand that the elected officials are kind of in flux. This is an election year, and you have quite a folks that might be running. My advice to you, if at all possible, is try to get a schedule, agree to the schedule, and try to keep it consistent for a while. It will just make it much easier for employees that are here. So with that, let's talk a little bit about what we did. The purpose of our study was to conduct an external market analysis. The study was started in May of last year. At that point in time, you had gone through a myriad of different types of consolidations of positions, loss of positions, elimination of positions, and as a result of that, the question was, are we still comparable to the external market? So we took a look at that. I will tell you, over the last couple of years, there have not been very many compensation studies for obvious reasons. But we are seeing them popping up again for this same exact reason. You are not alone in the country, and we've done salary studies everywhere from Maine to Idaho and in between. You are not alone in municipalities that have done a lot of work in consolidating positions, eliminating positions, etc., due to budget impacts and due to the economy. And as a result of that, municipalities are saying, okay, after we've mixed the pot, how are we in relationship to everybody else? Obviously, we need to look at internal, because just because the market may say that this position is placed here, we need to look and make sure internally, are you equitable? Do we have positions that are paid more in lower pay grades than higher pay grades? We were asked to make a recommendation to your current system, and in fact, we are actually recommending a change to your current system and adding some modifications to it. So we spent quite a bit of time with the city manager and HR looking at all the different types of schedules that are out there and variations thereof, and determined based upon your employee population and economics, this would be the most feasible for you and cost effective, because obviously we can't put a schedule in that you can't afford. At the time of the beginning of the study, we were asked to look at some compensation and benefit issues. There is some data in there in regards to health insurance, vacation, sick leave, etc., that we'll go over very quickly. And so we did take a look at those in relationship to other places. And obviously, the most important thing is to evaluate the fiscal impact, because it does no good to us as a corporation or to you as an organization if we put something in that's not fiscally achievable. We did this for all non-union positions as well as union positions. Union positions have been presented under separate cover to Cindy. Obviously, those positions and impacts have to be negotiated through your contract agreement procedures. And so we've taken a look at those and made some suggestions for those as well. And we won't be really discussing those tonight, considering they have negotiation implications. To do this study, we interviewed all supervisory personnel, our department heads, in some cases the second in commands in multiple departments, interviewed the majority of elected officials who were here at the time of May of last year, and then obviously spent quite a bit of time with Cindy and the city manager, the current city manager, because Mr. Zimwald had already been gone by the time the study started. We spent a lot of time reviewing the analysis of your current system, your policies that go around that system. And then we sent a questionnaire to a number of surrounding municipalities. We received the municipalities to go basically through all the interviews. Individuals said, well, I think my position is similar to these and other municipalities. In total, we sent a questionnaire out to 18 different organizations. The majority of them are in Kentucky, basically the areas that are contiguous to here. We went out and sought information for 85 city positions, which is quite a lot. Some of the positions we broke apart. For example, you have a public works director who is also your engineer. And so we first looked and see, is there anybody out there that has that combination, public works director / PE, as well as just public works director, just city engineer. And so we could take a look at all those to make sure that we were placing this individual correctly based upon the conglomeration of all those different types of positions. We were asked to place some new positions in the schedule, so you may see some folks there that you've never had before. We're not recommending at this point in time that you hire them, but at some point in time when the budget allows it, you have those positions already in place to slot right in. When we went out to the municipalities, we looked at what was your minimum of your schedule. And more importantly, I did get their minimum, midpoint, and maximum, but I also, for me, what's more important than that information is what are these people actually making in those other municipalities. So if I'm looking at, since I'm picking on the public works engineer, I want to see what public works folks are actually making, not their salary ranges. Because as you know, salary ranges can be very small, they can be very large. It may not be a true reflection of what the individual's actually being paid. And so that really is the basis for how the structure was constructed versus some arbitrary midpoint on a schedule that someone put together. And as I said, we looked at benefit information. We calculated an average because when I interviewed the elected officials, i.e. you, the majority of you said we want to be the average payer. I mean, I gave you options to be the highest payer in the area or the lowest payer in the area, and most places, most of you chose the average. Not uncommon. I have about a handful of municipalities who basically do have the philosophy we want to be at the top 66th or 75th percentile of the market. I've had one municipality that has basically communicated the fact that we want to be below average. But the majority of municipalities that we do compensations on, especially municipalities, are saying we want to be the average because that really sits well better with the economics of the area. When I look at all this information, I will throw out outlier salaries. So if we went to Cape Girardeau and that position was at least $20-some thousand more than what you're being paid or what the average market is, we'll throw that out. As well as someone comes in as making $15,000, we're going to throw that out. So we're looking at a really tight statistical average of what those positions are paying. So we don't want to skew the data in any way, shape, or form. Once I get that information, we look at something called a comp ratio. A comp ratio is basically the average or the ratio of your position to the external market or to the average market data. Because what happens with a lot of salary schedules is there's numbers on there, and the midpoint number says 25,000, and the person's making 23,900, and they go, well, see, I'm underpaid because I'm not making 25,000. And instead what we say, look, the average, the market rate is at the 50%. If you're between 40 and 60% of that number, you're being paid the average market rate. Unless you're looking at a defined step system where there's specific steps for each year of service, which is something that you have in like your police and fire departments, you're never going to get to that specific number. And most municipalities will use 10% of each side of the average market and say, that's fair. This is what you should be paid. Actually, you've done very good as an organization. Out of all the positions that we looked at, 79% of your positions are within the acceptable range. So they're either at or higher than average, or 50%, or they're between 40 and 49%. So actually you've done very well. You do have some positions, about 21, that were below the average market rate. And those are positions that we needed to look at, because there could be reasons for that. One reason is that in the past, the city has had a tendency to adjust its salary range by only looking at the maximum and not looking at the minimum. And we did find a couple of positions that when you really put a nice structure together, you had positions below the minimum. In other cases, people may not be at the average market rate because of performance. And so you do need to take a look at that. So even though I say 21 positions or 14, not all of those may need to be adjusted to get within an acceptable range. Your current system, as I indicated, over the past years really has kind of gotten out of whack. Anywhere from minimum to maximum can be anywhere from 63 to 82%. So from your minimum could be 82% to your maximum. That's an extremely large range. It's something you really don't see unless you're getting into a concept called broadbanding, and then you might see 90 to 110% ranges, but that's not where you're at. In addition to that, you had numbers. Positions were a 54 or a 53 or whatever it was. And again, inconsistency came in between the pay grades. It was as little as 5% and as much as 33%. So we need to kind of tighten that schedule up a little bit so it's more reasonable. Usually on July 1st, the beginning of your fiscal year, the ranges and an across-the-board type increase was given to everybody. And then theoretically, there was merit on the person's anniversary date. I will say theoretically because you really don't have a defined merit structure in place. Many of the folks that I interviewed said, oh, you mean we get merit? Knew nothing about it. And basically those that did get merit said, we were the ones that were willing to make an argument to the elected officials to get a person an increase. So in context, you really did not have a merit system, and that shows up very dramatically when you place folks within the salary range, because you have some folks that haven't been here that long that are high in the range, some folks that are new that are low in the range. There hasn't been a consistent methodology in which to look at a merit type component. Police and fires have step schedules. I will tell you this, in your police and fire departments there's something known as compression. It's very common in police and fire departments where there's a number of ranks. Compression is this: when I take my base salary plus overtime, my total salary then starts bumping in or is higher than the rank above. And you definitely have that problem here. It's very difficult to look at any rank distinction. So your sergeants in some cases, because of the overtime, are making more than the captains, which are making more than police officers. I mean, it really is problematic. There's two reasons for that. First one is overtime. Some of it cannot be controlled in police and fire departments inherent with the schedule. In the state of Kentucky, you are very unusual because there's something called the Fair Labor Standards Act, which is when is overtime allowed. For us normal people, overtime is given for hours worked over 40 hours in a defined work week. There's something on the federal level called the 7K exemption, which says police and fire departments, because they're 24/7 operations, we can give you relief from overtime by extending that amount of time. What you see in typical fire departments is in a 28-day cycle, I have to work 212 hours before I earn overtime. Unfortunately for you, the state of Kentucky has said, we're not going to honor the federal law, and you have to give firefighters overtime for all hours worked over 40. So you don't have relief from the 7K exemption. To give you an example of what that means, I just completed a fire study both on the opposite side of your state and in West Virginia. We could save the city about $5,000 to $6,000 per employee by just taking advantage of that 7K exemption. So until you get your state legislatures here to change that, you're paying more in overtime than you need to pay. So that's one issue you have. The second issue you have with those schedules is you've got way too many steps. I mean, in your fire department, you have 25 steps. In some cases, they're less than 1% in between. To be honest with you, I can't say I've ever seen a schedule like that before. And so I have made some recommendations how to make it a much more fiscally manageable schedule than having all these steps. And that, along with the recommendations of where we place the non-union individuals, should help and eliminate some of the compression within those two departments. At this point in time, for both police and fire, to me as an employee, there's no advantage to get to a promotion. I will actually lose money. And I think that's not what's intended, because you have some very talented folks that would do well in those positions. Public salary, again, a unique schedule. You have one salary for each position. So if I'm here 5 minutes or if I'm here 25 years, I get the same amount of money. Okay, and again, made some recommendations that maybe there at least should be some differentiation, because I think we would all agree somebody who's been here 1 to 3 years may not be as skilled and as somebody who's been here for 5 years. So I've made some recommendations for that. Again, for your next round of contract negotiations, since I think you're looking at ratifying a contract hopefully this week. What we've done, as I said, you've got problems with your structure, and we really want to try to fix that. As I said, your merit is inconsistent. There's no established criteria. Not every department does performance evaluation, and right now the majority of your employees say that merit is based upon whether or not my supervisor will argue to you of whether or not I get an increase. Okay. What we're recommending is basically continuing with the salary ranges. We've divided it up into kind of 4 quartiles. We've given you a very defined hiring range. The midpoint of the salary range is based upon the average market rate of those people who are actually working in those positions, and we have a defined maximum rate. It ranges anywhere from 45% wide to 52% wide, and maybe even 60% wide for some positions. You basically move through the position based upon 3 criteria. Out of the 3, I'm only recommending that you do 2 at this point in time. The first one, at the beginning of each fiscal year, you're going to give your typical across-the-board increases. I will tell you that when you have union and non-union salaries, there's usually 2 schools of thought. One is that we, because of contracts, will give our union employees this, and we're going to give all of our non-union employees the crumbs that are left. Or other places will attach it to one of the contracts, typically FOP or IAFF, and say, okay, if we've negotiated a 2% increase for them, we're going to at least give our non-union employees 2%. And then there's others that say, look, we value the fact that they're not union, and we're going to make sure that our non-union employees get at least a percentage of that more than our non-union. Whichever way you choose is fine, but I think you should just try to be consistent. Personally, I don't like the idea that they get the crumbs left. I think they should be given at least what the minimum type of increase they are because they're union. The second thing is something new. And basically, the way the salary range is now, no one really moves through the system. And so what we did is we put a market formula. And the market formula says this: I'm going to take your current salary and I'm going to look at it based upon your years of service in the position and say, where then should that be within the range? So if I'm 3 to 5 years, I should be around the second quartile. If I'm 5 to 10 years, I should be around the midpoint. If I'm more than 10 years, I should be in the 3rd or 4th quartile of the range. Now, that placement, even though it's based strictly on formula, as I've told both Cindy and Jeff, then you still need to sit down with the city manager and say, is their performance up to it? Because, you know, if that moves them, but they haven't been performing, then they shouldn't get the increase. But at least this way, there's some sort of adjustment for all of your performers that says, we recognize your tenure, and we're going to make sure that you are continually moving within that salary range. The salary ranges, as I indicated, are not as large. We definitely don't have any 80% salary ranges. The third element is merit. I have built a merit component into the schedule so that you get the across the board. There could or could not be a market adjustment, and then the third piece would be a determined merit. And I'm saying at this point in time, don't implement it. You need to do some things first. Number one, you do not have up-to-date job descriptions. And if I'm going to give you merit, I really should be understanding and making sure you understand what the base performance is before I say you've gone above that. Number two, you need to make sure you have performance evaluation instruments in every department, and that those supervisors and employees are trained on that instrument so that they know what they're being evaluated on, and supervisors know how to evaluate them. And third, but not least, you need to have money. And when you're only looking at maybe 1.5%, 2% salary increases, what's merit? You know, there's not much left. I would say for the past couple of years, municipalities have not been given salary increases at all. This year, I'm starting to see salary increases, and I'm surprised. I'm seeing municipalities go anywhere from 2 to 4% with an average about a 3% salary increase. So 2012 is the first time in a couple of years that municipalities are starting to give salary increases. So when you only have 1 to 3%, you really don't have that much left over for merit. And so I'd wait till a time when you have more fiscal ability to do a merit increase. Merit increases should be based upon the conversation and the performance evaluation between the supervisor and the employee. It should not be a competition, whether it's true or not, of whether or not I got to you folks and I made my case. Because no offense, guys, you're not the one sitting there day to day watching their performance. And sometimes an employee's opinion of their performance versus a supervisor's opinion of their performance might be a little different. So let the supervisor and the employee determine what that merit should be, and then the checks should be through human resources and through the city manager. But obviously, you still need to be a critical piece and evaluate in determining whether or not there's a pool of dollars for any type of merit. That's your job. What we did for the placement for 2012-13 is all employees were given a 1.5% increase. That's patterned off of some of your contract settlements. If there was a market adjustment, that was put in there. And then there were about 7 employees where, at least as of before yesterday, would have gotten more than a 4% increase because their salary to the market and where they should be within the range was incorrect. And over the past day and a half, I have sat down with every department head. We've gone through the placement of all their positions because some information that I had back in May of last year when we were placing them versus what they are now have changed. And we've looked at those individuals. So it's probably not 7 anymore because some positions we have changed the pay grade lower, some we've changed the pay grade higher. But we basically said if the 1.5% and the market adjustment was higher than 4%, we're going to cap you this year, and we're going to spread that out for a couple of years instead of doing it all at once. And again, as of yesterday, there were 7 employees, so it's not a significant number. But everybody else received at least the 1.5%. There are a couple who didn't receive anything because they're at the maximum of their salary range. So the maximum of their salary range now is the maximum. So if I hit that range, I'm not going to get any other type of base salary increase. But what I would recommend so that you continue to incent those good employees is to take whatever that dollar equivalent would be and give them as a lump sum amount of money. So if my increase was supposed to be 1.5% and that equates up to $2,500, I get that as a lump sum, but nothing is added to my base salary. So at least I'm still rewarding you for being here. You do still have a problem with placement of positions in the schedule because of how things were done in the past. Not that they were right or wrong, it's just, it is what it is, that you do have some longer tenured employees in lower pay grades making more money than newer employees in high pay grades. You're always going to have that. You have a little bit higher percentage than normal, but that will work itself out. If you adopt and really stick to the system, it will work itself out over the years. Like I said, other recommendations, merit, don't do it now, wait. What I would try to say is I know a lot of folks always ask me, well, the annual salary increase, what do we equate that to? My answer to this is pick something and stick to it, whether it's the COLA wage, whether it's the Department of Labor and Statistics cost of living wage, whether it's whatever it is, stick to that, to use that as your general guide every year as to how we should increase those salary ranges and then what type of across-the-board increase. Try to find something that you can live with. The other thing you'll see when you look at the salary schedules, and again, there's more changes as of the last day and a half, we've taken this time period to clean up things. There's a lot of titles that don't make sense. You have Inspector 2s, but you don't have Inspector 1s, and so the question is, do you need a 1 and 2 or do you just need 1? Some titles just don't make sense anymore, and so we've tried to clean that up. The other thing that we found that there's some exempt level employees that because they used to be on a 37.5-hour work week, their salary, their number of hours per year is still at 1,950 versus a 40-hour employee, which is 2,080. And so the recommendation is that all exempt employees have 2,080 as their base. And granted, it doesn't make too much of a difference because, as we all know, an exempt employee is the employee who works the number of hours necessary in order to get the job done. But at least when you're comparing, keep it all consistent. There's really no reason to have the 1950 versus the 2080 anymore. And the other thing that we cleaned up was car allowance. I've heard a number of different stories, and for each one of those individuals, perception is reality, and that's what they thought. Some people were given car allowances as part of their contract for being a department head or being a different type of position. Some people told me that they were given a car allowance because instead of getting a salary increase, I was given this amount of money that I could have because I couldn't get a salary increase. Whatever the reason being, we took a hard look at the car allowances and probably eliminated all but one or two of them and rolled that into the base salary and just got rid of it. Because there really is, in some cases, no reason for these individuals to have car allowances. And so I think right now there's maybe two positions, maybe three, that still have a car allowance. And that's it. All the rest are gone. I'm seeing more and more car allowances for the majority of employees being eliminated. It's still around a lot for city managers. Sometimes it's still around for public works folks if you don't have a public works city vehicle. That's about all that's keeping them at this point in time, because usually your fire chief and police chief have city vehicles, or the case, in some cases, they've gotten rid of the city vehicles and then they might get a counter allowance. But other than that, we've kind of really eliminated all that. You don't need them. Just makes it messy. And like I said, I have developed compensation systems for all of your union personnel. And again, that's going to be something that you folks will have to agree or disagree in, as well as them, to go into. Couple things that we did besides the title changes. There's always an issue with clerical positions. My clerical position does a lot more than your clerical position does, just ask her. And so what we did is we took all of the clerical positions, put them all out on the floor, and developed a set of criteria. And so if you meet this criteria, you now fall into this level of secretary. We did the same thing with Inspector 1 and 2. In fact, even today I met with your fire chief, and we obviously, I know it's still pending your approval. There's the idea of putting inspections under the fire department. Considering I just finished a study doing that with another municipality in Illinois, we kind of cleaned up what all those pay grades would look like if that was approved. We've eliminated some levels, we've added some new positions, so there really has been a lot of work that has been done to kind of clean up that system. Health insurance, I'm not going to spend much time on it because when you look at health insurance, we can definitely look at what the cost of health insurance is. It gets into a whole nother picture when you look at plan design, and it was not the scope of the study, nor is it really feasible to do a plan design. So basically what we did is we looked at what is the entire premium for your two levels of health insurance. You have an investor and you have an elite, and compared that to what the average premium is for the municipalities that participated. When it comes to single, you're slightly higher than the average, and when it comes to family, you're right in the ballpark. What does that mean? It could mean that your plan's richer than theirs. It could mean that because you're self-insured and you have a lot of claims. It's basically kind of a, let's take a peek at it next time insurance comes up. Let's see how we fare, and do we need to do anything. I don't see anything that disparaging that you really need to go, oh my God, our health insurance is so bad. But it's just kind of a FYI for you. Other benefits, we looked at the vacation schedules. Not making any recommendations. You know, you're a little light, but you're close. One thing I am recommending is for all of your department head level positions and maybe the second in commands, you need to develop an administrative vacation policy. Right now it's based upon who can negotiate the best. And so some people have 1 week, some people have 4 weeks. You know, what I think is you just develop a plan, and if I'm in these pay grades or if I'm in these positions, this is the vacation schedule that all administrative personnel are given. And you don't have this inconsistency among your department heads and second line supervision. Sick leave, definitely comparable, not making any recommendations. Something you may want to put in the back of your thinking process, there's something out there called a VEBA. It's called a Voluntary Employee Beneficiary Account. And most municipal organizations have some sort of sick leave payout. The problem with those sick leave payouts is they can become rather large, even if they're capped because of years of service and salary. Some municipalities are actually having their bond ratings affected because of the amount of liability that they have to have on their books. That's not the case here, but that can happen. A VEBA is something where you can take those dollars and you put it into, it's kind of like a 401k or a investment account. It becomes the employees, and it's put into that account on a tax-free basis. So you're not taxed on those dollars, so you save the money. You get it off your books, which helps you from a liability standpoint, and it then becomes the employees to manage. The upside or downside, depending upon your viewpoint, is those dollars can only be used for health insurance type expenses. If I'm on Medicare, it can pay for Medicare Part B. It can pay for my co-pays. It can pay for my glasses. It can pay for my dentures. I can't take that money and go out and buy a boat. So it's kind of offering retiree health insurance through the accumulation of your sick leave fund. But just something to think about. Tuition reimbursement, I was asked to look at that. I highly recommend that you continue it. I have made some recommendations for policy changes, and that's spelled wrong. Let's put it this way. I did my doctoral dissertation on municipal government as a learning organization. No, that's not an oxymoron. But one of the things that came out of there was how much of an impact education and memberships in organizations is of value to an organization even during economic downturns. And those municipalities that were really kind of on the cutting edge of things, they may have scaled back, but they never eliminated participation in local groups or national groups or conferences. Again, it may be that I could only go every other year versus every year. So I think tuition reimbursement and the type of thing really needs to continue because it brings people together who are peers and who are going through the same type of a thing. And so why reinvent the wheel when you can steal from somebody else? And you can use those networks to really help solve the problems for the city of Paducah. So I really do think tuition reimbursement at that time, again, needs to be scaled back because obviously they can't go to everything they want to. You don't have the fiscal means for that, but it definitely needs to continue. I was asked to look at your salaries. The average market rate for elected commissioners ranged anywhere from a low of $8,675 to a high of $1,875. The average was $1,178. So at this point in time, I'm not making any recommendations to change your salaries. And then I was also asked to look at whether or not there was participation in the city's health insurance plan by elected officials, and that is all over the map. From yes, they are at 100% to no, they're not covered at all, to all kinds of various anomalies in between. So my basic thing is keep what you got and you're right in the ballpark. So there's no recommendations at this point in time. Sorry for you. I will say that I was very surprised with the salary data. You're kind of in this little pocket. And when it comes to department head salaries and maybe the second in command, I'm looking at Kentucky, West Virginia, a part of Tennessee. You are significantly lower than the majority of the national realm. I mean, I look at what some of your department heads are making, and I could tell you right now, if you looked at anything outside that bubble, you're not going to get a new employee to come in for the salary ranges, even the ones that we're recommending. So that's just something you have to keep keep notice on. So it's not like, you hear all the time, oh, our public employees are so overpaid. Your public employees here are not overpaid. You're very much at the average. In some cases, I would even consider you below average. The type of folks that you're going to attract for your department head level people, I think are going to be one of two things. One, I'm a second in command in a real large municipality, and I want to cut my teeth being the department head with you. Or I've retired someplace else, I have a pension, and I can take that type of pay cut. Because I can tell you right now, I'm just doing a study right now, a little bit in northern Illinois and in Missouri. You can't touch a public works director for under $130,000, $150,000. And your max right now is probably about 122. That's the maximum of your salary range. So I think you've got some work to do in that at some point in time, just not right now because you can't fix everything right now. So any questions as I've babbled on?
Any questions, commissioners?
It's a lot of information to digest.
I know.
It's a lot to digest, but very valuable information for us, and we've certainly needed this study for a long time.
Yeah.
City Manager, do you have anything to say?
Well, I just want to say that I'm pleased that this is before you, and it's been a very collaborative effort, and Victoria has shown a lot of leadership and inclusiveness throughout the organization, including with the commissioners. So I think it's a product that, once it's adopted, reflects a consensus beliefs of the organization and validated by the market and so on and so forth. So I think that issue of validity is key here and should be going forward as we look at maybe some of the challenging decisions of how to move forward with some of the recommendations.
Good.
Commissioner Abraham? Mm-hmm.
I thought it was very thorough. It offered consistency, also a big dose of common sense, and that's always good. Sometimes that big common sense thing, it's lacking around here sometimes. But moving forward, I think we have some options, and when we're able to do some things a little differently, I think it's always important to treat employees. We have some great employees around here, and we want to do the best we can for them with the resources we have available. And I think when the workforce realizes that that's where we're moving to, morale is higher, performance is better. So I appreciate the effort. It's a great job.
Thank you. And consistency is the key, as much as you can. And hopefully this system will provide that for you. So good luck. And as I told Cindy and Jeff, even though I am now done, phone calls are always free. I'm not an attorney. So.
Good to know. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to the minutes. Commissioner Abraham? No, is that right? Yes. No.
I move that the reading of the minutes for March 13th, 2012 meeting be waived, and that the minutes of said meetings prepared by the city clerk be approved as written.
Second.
City Clerk?
Commissioner Abraham?
Aye.
Commissioner Galt?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Kaler?
Aye. Appointments. Whereas upon the recommendation of Mayor Paxton, I move that the Board of Commissioners reappoint Henry Barber as a member of the Tree Advisory Board. This term will expire July 26, 2015.
I move that the Board of Commissioners approve the recommendation of Mayor Paxton in reappointing Henry Barber as a member of the Tree Advisory Board.
Second.
City Clerk?
Commissioner Abraham?
Aye.
Commissioner Galt?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Kaler?
Aye. Whereas upon the recommendation of Mayor Paxton, I move that the Board of Commissioners reappoint John Gill as a member of the Paducah Golf Commission. This term will expire March 26, 2016.
I move that the Board of Commissioners approve the recommendation of Mayor Paxton in reappointing John Gill as a member of the Paducah Golf Commission.
Second.
City Clerk?
Commissioner Abraham?
Aye.
Commissioner Galt?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Kaler?
Aye. Whereas upon the recommendation of Mayor Paxton, I move that the Board of Commissioners reappoint Martha Argate Thomas as a member of the Paducah Human Rights Commission. This term it will expire July 24, 2014.
I move that the Board of Commissioners approve the recommendation of Mayor Paxton in reappointing Martha Agate Thomas as a member of the Paducah Human Rights Commission.
Second.
City Clerk?
Commissioner Abraham?
Aye.
Commissioner Galt?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Kaler?
Aye. Whereas upon the recommendation of Mayor Paxton, I move that the Board of Commissioners appoint Andrew Gates to the Paducah McCracken Riverport Authority to replace David Hutchinson, who has resigned. This term will expire September 26, 2015.
I move that the Board of Commissioners approve the recommendations of Mayor Paxton in appointing Andrew Gates to the Paducah McCracken County Riverport Authority.
Second.
City Clerk?
Commissioner Abraham?
Aye.
Commissioner Galt?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Kaler?
Aye. It's always good to have these people to serve on our boards. They're all volunteers that give of their time, and we've got some great resumes that come with these applications, so thank you. And motions, Commissioner Galt.
I move that the following documents be received and filed. Documents, insurance certificates, deed, quitclaim deed between the City of Paducah and BLP Development, LLC for a portion of a private access road within Conrad Heights subdivision, Paducah Police Department 2011 Annual Report, General Obligation Bonds, Transcript of Proceedings, Series 2011 of $9,908,000 with the McCracken County acting on behalf of the City for the Murray State University Paducah Campus Project.
Second.
City Clerk?
Commissioner Abraham?
Aye.
Commissioner Galt?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Kaler?
Aye. Under municipal orders, Commissioner Abraham.
Upon the recommendation of the City Manager, the Board of Commissioners of the City of Paducah order that the personnel changes on the attached list be approved.
Second.
City Manager, anything to
Well,
talk about here?
I don't think there's anything too unusual here. If there are any questions, we'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions?
No.
Okay.
No questions.
City Clerk?
Commissioner Abraham?
Aye.
Commissioner Galt?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Kaler?
Aye. Commissioner Galt?
I move that a municipal order entitled, a municipal order adopting the City of Paducah, Kentucky, Paducah Housing Agency Revised Administrative Plan for Section 8 Housing be adopted.
Second.
Good afternoon, Danny.
Good afternoon.
You want to talk about this?
Basically, it's our annual required cleanup of some of our policies, and we've got three. One is adjusting our utility allowances, one is adopting the annual plan, and one is cleaning up the administrative plan with some changes, a few.
So,
The first administrative plan, we are recommending that we revise our payment standard, and the payment standard is the amount that we're allowed to lease a unit for. In the past, we've adopted the published fair market rent. Over the last year, our fair market rents were reduced. For whatever reason, rents in the area were not reduced. So we're obligated to go anywhere from 90 to 110% of the published fair market rent. So we're advocating freezing the fair market rent at the prior year level. The other section in Census Tract 113, which is the area out behind West Kentucky Technical College, the Scholar House units that we have agreed to assist with is almost finished. They should be completed sometime in May, early June, perhaps. But to cash flow that property, they are needing a certain amount of income, and the rents are the income. So we have negotiated a payment or a rent structure that would push us to that 110% of published fair market rent, which we're advocating that you pass. And the other is just the update on the waiting list data.
Dan, you always do a great job. Thank you. Any
Thank you.
Questions or discussion?
The last part, the update on the waiting list.
Yes.
How's that?
We just break it out into categories, how many minorities, non-minorities, the total amount on the waiting list. It is on page 20, and it just breaks it down into categories, how many people are actually on our waiting list.
Okay. Okay.
About how long is a wait?
Excuse me. Right now, we're averaging anywhere from 6 to 8 months in waiting period on the waiting list. There's 533, I believe, people that are on our waiting list. It is a long wait. Our waiting list increased about 50 to 75 people from last year. So in these economic times, that is to be expected.
Okay. Thank you, Danny.
Thank you.
Let me call the roll.
Please.
Commissioner Abraham?
Aye.
Commissioner Galt?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Kaler?
Aye. Commissioner Abraham.
I move that a municipal order entitled the City of Paducah, Kentucky Public Housing Agency Annual Plan for Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program for fiscal year 2012 be adopted.
Second.
Okay, Danny.
Annual plan is a HUD required plan that we submit yearly. There's been no substantial changes to that plan.
All right. Any questions? City Clerk?
Commissioner Abraham?
Aye.
Commissioner Galt?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Kaler?
Aye. Commissioner Galt.
I move that a municipal order entitled, a municipal order adopting the City of Paducah, Kentucky Paducah Housing Agency Revised Administrative Plan for Section 8 Housing be adopted.
Second.
Wrong one. Utility allowance should be the next one.
I move that.
Did I miss Commissioner Abraham?
Did I read the wrong one?
Yes.
Percent changes.
You read the first one over again.
Oh, utility allowances?
Yes.
I didn't fold it. That's my trick.
You gotta fold it.
I gotta fold it.
Look. See, you gotta fold that thing.
There we go. I move that a municipal order entitled, a municipal order adopting revisions of the utility allowances for the Section 8 housing program as required by the Housing and Community Development Act of 1974 as revised be adopted.
Second.
Okay. Utility allowances. We adjust these yearly to adjust for increases and decreases of utility rates. As you can see, natural gas 10.5% increase, sewer 3.1%. Propane 4.6%, these are all increases, and electricity 4.3%. That's the blended rate between Jackson Purchase and Paducah Power. So we adjusting our rates accordingly.
It's interesting. Thank you. Any questions? All right. City Clerk?
Commissioner Abraham?
Aye.
Commissioner Galt?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Kaler?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Danny. On ordinances adoption, Commissioner Abraham.
I move that the Board of Commissioners adopt an ordinance entitled, an ordinance amending Section 18-91 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Paducah. This ordinance is summarized as follows. An ordinance amending building and building regulations for the City of Paducah by adopting the most recent edition of the State Building and Residential Codes and reducing the number of Building Codes Appeals Board members from 7 to 5.
Second.
Any discussion? We've talked about these last week. This is a good thing. City Clerk?
Commissioner Abraham?
Aye.
Commissioner Galt?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Kaler?
Aye. Commissioner Galt.
I move that the Board of Commissioners adopt an ordinance entitled, an ordinance amending Section 126-117 Planned Office Park, POP, of Chapter 126 Zoning of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Paducah, Kentucky. This ordinance is summarized as follows, that Section 126-117 Planned Office Park, POP, of Chapter 126 Zoning of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Paducah, Kentucky, is hereby amended to allow nursing homes as a principal use in the Planned Office Park zone and allow other similar principal permitted uses with Plan Commission approval.
Second.
Planning Commission approval.
Any discussion on this? We talked about it last week. City Clerk?
Commissioner Abraham,
Aye.
Commissioner Galt,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Kaler.
Aye. Commissioner Abraham?
I move that the Board of Commissioners adopt an ordinance entitled, an ordinance approving the amendment to the letter of agreement entered into between the City of Paducah, Kentucky and the Housing Authority of Paducah dated May 27, 2009, and waiving a certain condition pursuant to the closing of the acquisition of certain properties located off of Martin Luther King Drive, Paducah, Kentucky. This ordinance is summarized as follows. This ordinance authorizes the City of Paducah, Kentucky, to enter into an amendment to letter of agreement dated May 26, 2009, wherein the City of Paducah, Kentucky will acquire all rights, titles, and interests of Housing Authority of Paducah pursuant to the terms and condition of the amendment to a letter of agreement in and to the real property located off Martin Luther King Jr. Drive, Paducah, McCracken County, Kentucky, for the purpose specified therein, and further authorizes the City of Paducah, Kentucky, to consummate the acquisition of Martin Luther King Jr. Drive property in order to accomplish the goals of the Fountain Avenue Neighborhood Revitalization Plan.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion or questions on this? I think it's, we've looked over the agreement, and I think it's pretty clear cut what we have to do tonight. So,
I don't have any questions.
roll call, City
No
Clerk.
question.
Commissioner Abraham,
Aye.
Okay, let's discuss how we vote on this. We've already voted. Right.
he's already voted. If
The
I'm-
motion is to approve the ordinance.
It's fine. I mean, I'm clear.
Okay.
Okay, Commissioner Galt,
No.
Commissioner Mayor Pro Tem Kaler.
No. Commissioner Galt?
I move that the Board of Commissioners adopt an ordinance entitled, an ordinance amending ordinance number, oh, I'm doing it again. Or is this the right one? Is that the right one?
Hold it.
It's the Urban Renewal Board.
It's the right one. Ordinance amending ordinance number 2006-11-7213 entitled, authorizing Urban Renewal and Community Development Agency to act on behalf of the city for revitalization of the Fountain Avenue Phase 1 project. This ordinance is summarized as follows. Amending ordinance to allow Urban Renewal and Community Development Agency to act on behalf of the city to approve and authorize expenditures for the revitalization of the Fountain Avenue Phase 1 project in an amount not to exceed $50,000.
Second.
Those others have to come. This is too hard.
Okay, any discussion? All right, City Clerk?
Commissioner Abraham,
Aye.
Commissioner Galt,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Kaler.
Aye. Commissioner Abraham?
I move that the Board of Commissioners adopt an ordinance entitled, an ordinance of the City of Paducah, Kentucky, amending Article 5, Development Permits of Chapter 50, Flood of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Paducah, Kentucky. This ordinance is summarized as follows, amending Chapter 50, Article 5 of the Code of Ordinances of the City to establish a special flood hazard area development application fee of $100 and establish a one-year expiration date from the date of insurance of the special flood hazard area development permit.
Second.
Anyone have a question for Rick tonight? Okay on it?
Mm-hmm.
City Clerk?
Mr. Abraham,
Aye.
Mr. Galt,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Kaler.
Aye. Now we're moving on to contracts for engineering public works for the following. Commissioner Galt.
I move that the Board of Commissioners adopt an ordinance entitled, an ordinance accepting the bid for the City of Paducah's calendar years 2012 and 2013 concrete program and authorizing the mayor to execute a contract for same. This ordinance is summarized as follows, that the City of Paducah accepts the bid of Harper Construction, LLC for the calendar years 2012 and 2013 concrete program at the unit prices and hourly rates listed below and authorizes the mayor to execute a contract for same. The contract has a one-year renewal option ending December 31st, 2014 upon mutual agreement by the city and Harper Construction. The prices are as follows. Concrete removal and replacement. Item number 1, description. Curb and gutter, remove and reconstruct. Linear foot, $37.75. Curb and gutter, new construction, linear foot, $22.26. Concrete sidewalk, square yard, $57.40. Concrete sidewalk, new construction, square yard, $42.80. Concrete handicap ramp, square yard, $62. Concrete entrance pavement, square yard, $61.25. Concrete entrance pavement, square yard, $65.90. Concrete entrance pavement M mix, square yard, $73.25. Concrete entrance pavement M mix, square yard, $78.25. Granite curb reset with new concrete gutter, linear foot, $44.06. Gutter replacement, granite curb in place, linear foot, $36.55. Concrete barrier median, square yard, $74. Concrete header curb, linear foot, $27.75. Concrete header curb, linear foot, $35.50. Non-reinforced concrete, square yard, $60.50. Inlet repair existing, each $781.50. Reinforced concrete new construction class A, cubic yard, $1,000. Deep saw cut linear foot, $6. Perforated pipe linear foot, $16.25.
Second.
Excavation work. Oh, I'm finished.
Oh,
Sorry.
I better wake up here, huh?
Out of rhythm. There's not enough people. Track hoe, hourly rate $120. Backhoe, $95 an hour. Compactor roller, $79 an hour. Dump truck, $92.50 an hour. Backhoe with breaker, $100 an hour. Small dozer, $122 an hour. Laborer, $58.50 an hour.
Second.
Any discussion on that?
Is anybody opposed to the provision in there where the Public Works Director asks for consent to extend the contract for a year if it's agreeable? Cut down on commission time.
December 31st, 2014. We got it.
Okay.
Okay, City Clerk?
Commissioner Abraham,
Aye.
Commissioner Galt,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Kaler.
Aye. Commissioner Abraham?
I move that the Board of Commissioners adopt an ordinance entitled, an ordinance accepting the bid of Danny Cope and Sons Excavating, LLC for rental of various equipment for the 2012 and 2013 calendar years and authorizes the mayor to execute a contract for same. This ordinance is summarized as follows, that the City of Paducah accepts the bid of Danny Cope and Son Excavating, LLC for rental of various equipment for the 2012-2013 calendar years at the hourly rates listed below and authorizes the mayor to execute a contract for same. The contract has a one-year renewable option ending December 31st, 2014 upon mutual agreement by the city and Danny Cope and Sons Excavating. The hourly rates are as follows. Tractor scraper hourly rate $65. Dump truck hourly rate $58. Excavator $100. This is hourly rate. Backhoe $45. Track loader $30. Compact track loader $70. Motor grader $45. Vibratory roller small $28. Vibratory roller large $40. Dozer $90. Dozer large, $105. Crane, $50. Hydro seeder, $43. Small paver with 4-person crew, $165. Labor, $30. Landfill disposal fee, $50.
Second.
Any discussion? City Clerk?
Commissioner Abraham,
Aye.
Commissioner Galt,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Kaler.
Aye. Commissioner Galt?
I move that the Board of Commissioners adopt an ordinance entitled, an ordinance accepting the bid of Jim Smith Contracting Company, LLC for the City of Paducah's calendar years 2012 and 2013 street resurfacing program and authorizing the mayor to execute a contract for same. This ordinance is summarized as follows. Accepting the bid of Jim Smith Contracting Company, LLC for the City of Paducah's calendar years 2012 and 2013 street resurfacing program and authorizing the mayor to execute a contract for same. The contract has a 1-year renewal option ending December 31st, 2014 upon mutual agreement by the city and Jim Smith Contracting Company, LLC. The unit bid prices are as follows. Item number 1, description: bituminous surface base, unit ton 7990, milling texture ton 4750, traffic signal loop wire linear foot 250, traffic signal loop saw, slat, and fill linear foot $16, shoulder construction ton $37.
Second.
Any discussion? City Clerk?
Commissioner Abraham,
Aye.
Commissioner Galt,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Kaler.
Aye. Commissioner Abraham?
I move that the Board of Commissioners adopt an ordinance entitled, an ordinance accepting the bid of Pine Bluff Sand and Gravel Company for sale to the city of its requirement of limestone for the 2012 and 2013 calendar years and authorizes the mayor to execute a contract for same. This ordinance is summarized as follows: that the city of Paducah accepts the bid of Pine Bluff Sand and Gravel Company for sale to the city of its requirement of limestone for the 2012-2013 calendar years and authorizes the mayor to execute a contract for same. The contract has a 1-year renewable option ending December 31st, 2014 upon mutual agreement by the city of Pine Bluff Sand and Gravel Company. The unit prices are as follows. Description number 11, delivered bid amount $14.25. Pick up bid amount $12.25. Number 3, delivered bid amount $13.25. Picked up bid amount $11.75. Number 57, delivered bid amount $13.25. Picked up bid amount $11.75. Bid number 68, delivered bid amount $13.50, picked up bid amount $12. Number 9M, delivered bid amount $14.25, picked up bid amount $12.50. DGA, what's that?
Dense grade aggregate.
Okay, delivered bid amount $13, picked up bid amount $10.75. DGA pugged, $13.50 was delivered bid amount. Picked up bid amount was $11.25. Number 25, wrap, delivered bid amount $15.75. Picked up bid amount $13.50. 8-foot wrap, delivered bid amount $15.75. Picked up bid amount $13.50. 8-foot minus wrap, delivered bid amount $14.25. Picked up bid amount $12.50. Not exactly sure how to read this formula here.
125-pound riprap.
Yes, delivered bid amount $13. Picked up bid amount $10.75.
Second.
Right. Any discussion? Are you sure?
I'm sure.
Okay. City Clerk?
Commissioner Abraham,
Aye.
Commissioner Galt,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Kaler.
Aye. Commissioner Galt?
I move that the Board of Commissioners adopt an ordinance entitled, "An Ordinance Authorizing the Mayor to Execute a Grant Agreement and all documents relating thereto with the Kentucky League of Cities for a 2012 Matching Safety Grant Award." This ordinance is summarized as follows. The Mayor is hereby authorized to execute a grant agreement and all documents relating thereto with the Kentucky League of Cities for a 2012 Matching Safety Grant Award and will reimburse the city $5,150 for the purchase of 63 vehicle backup warning sensors for the Paducah Police Department. The matching funds of $5,150 will be provided through the Fleet Trust Fund.
Second.
Chief?
This is just second reading of it. Basically, we did an analysis and we found out that a lot of our accidents occur from backing up. So we're instrumental in getting this grant that puts the sensors on the back of the cruisers. So when they're backing up, they get some kind of warnings before they potentially hit something. So we're very pleased to get this.
I think I told you in the last meeting that I've ruined 2 bumpers on my husband's truck.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Great.
I should have one of those.
Yes. Thank you.
We need this.
Yes.
All right.
Commissioner Abraham?
I move that the Board of Commissioners introduce an...
I'm calling the roll. I'm sorry.
No. Aye.
I'm not supposed to- Commissioner Galt?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Kaler?
Aye. It's okay. It's all right.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to ordinances introduction. Mr. Abraham.
I move that the Board of Commissioners introduce an ordinance entitled, "An Ordinance Approving and Authorizing the Purchase of Handheld Radios and Accessories for the Paducah Police Department and authorizing the mayor to execute a contract for same." This ordinance is summarized as follows: that the City of Paducah hereby approves and authorizes the Finance Director to make payments to Motorola Solutions in the amount of $59,986.40 for the purchase of 24 XTS 2500 800 megahertz portable radios at $2,344.47 each, 24 chargers at $14.25 each, and 11 extra batteries at $31.92 each for the Paducah Police Department in compliance with the Kentucky State Purchasing Contract. Grant funds in the amount of $60,000 received from the Kentucky Office of Homeland Security will cover the costs.
Second.
So we're not out any money on that?
No, and one of the first things I found out when I came here was the fact that we have radios that were 15, 20 years old. They don't make parts for them, and they were just really in really bad shape. We also probably going to get more than 24 radios. This was tabled a week ago because we found out that Motorola was going to take off about $400 per radio, which will allow us to buy possibly about 8 more radios. So that's almost half the number of officers.
Good. Good deal. All right, we don't vote on that since it's an introduction. Thanks, Chief. We'll go on to the City Manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Kaler. I have an item under my report concerning Olivet Church Road. Want to make just a few comments about that tonight. The City Commission, I think, is well aware that that project has been around for a while and in various stages of progress. The need for a widening of Olivet Church Road has been recognized in this community as far back as 1996. As far back as 2004, a design for a widening of Olivet Church Road was revised to include a routing through the Kentucky Oaks Mall property aligned with the intersection of New Holt Road at Highway 60. Subsequent to that, the city and the fiscal court jointly agreed that this was a top priority in the community. From there, a lot of administrative steps were taken with the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet, including placement of it on the 6-year transportation plan to include a 5-lane section through to Highway 60 at a proposed cost of $6.5 million. The City of Paducah was authorized through interlocal agreement as the project administrator our city engineer, Rick Murphy, has been in that role for a number of years. And through Rick's leadership and hard work, design of the project was finalized way back in 2006. There's also been an agreement executed between the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet and the city of Paducah for right-of-way acquisition and utility relocation. And this is a project that the state funded in the amount of $2 million to date. Over $1 million of that money has been spent on behalf of the state by the city in those right-of-way acquisition efforts. So the project as it stands right now from a design standpoint is essentially complete and ready to go to bid. There are a couple of parcels that need to be acquired yet. This is a project that partially resides in the county as well as in the city. The state views, and I think appropriately so, the city and county as partners in this project and wants to know that the city and county remain together on this. As of last week, the fiscal court has given an indication that they may no longer be interested in the portion of this project that goes through the Kentucky Oaks Mall. So that being the case, we think it's necessary that all parties join together, the city, county, and the state of Kentucky, and sit down and discuss where we go with this. It is kind of a anomaly, if you will, that if the road through the mall is not to be part of this project, then the entire project would reside in McCracken County, and the city being the lead agency may no longer be appropriate. So we need to get together with the state and talk about some of those things, and it's our intention to encourage the county to be a party to those talks. Rick, do you have anything you want to add?
Not at this time.
Any questions for Rick or I?
No.
Okay, thank you.
I think that's a good plan. Doug, do you think that's a good plan, or do you have any comments, Doug? Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, a couple other things. Commissioner Kaler has requested some information on the status of surplus properties that the city owns. I should say Mayor Pro Tem Kaler tonight especially. So the planning department has put together some information. I'm just going to share that briefly with you tonight. We'll be back before you, I think, with some action items on this. But our surplus property holdings, and surplus being a determination on our part that these are properties that the city owns that we do not have a projected public use for. That inventory has been completed, and there are 37 parcels on that right now. Those have all been reviewed with respect to potential interest on the part of adjacent property owners and the qualifications of adjacent property owners to come forward and bid on those. 13 of those property owners have been contacted, and we're starting to see some interest come back. It would be the intention of the planning department on or about the 1st of May to begin the notification process through the newspaper to place all of the remaining properties out there for public interest and solicitation for a potential bid and disposal by the city. So I think this is a good step forward. I personally have never felt that the city needs to be owning property that it doesn't have any intended use for, and by gosh, we get property on the tax rolls. That's what we ought to be doing. So that is in process. Last week I had the opportunity as a member of the Paducah Power Board to attend the legislative rally in Washington put on by the American Public Power Association, of which Paducah Power is a member, that being a municipally owned electric utility. And I just want to point out something that's really interesting, that we find ourselves in a unique position. Most everybody has heard that the Environmental Protection Agency is imposing strict new regulations on on coal-fired electric plants that are really going to hit some of the older plants very, very hard, and it's projected could put up to 25 or more % of the coal generation in this country out of business just because of inability to afford the upgrades. So one of our positions in this rally was to support resolutions that would encourage the EPA to kind of back off a little bit or grant more time, an extended period of time. Well, here we are, the city of Paducah, who just recently, through the Paducah Power Board in the last few years, bought into a brand new coal-fired project in Prairie States, Illinois, that will be fully compliant with the proposed new regulations the day it goes online. So we are being asked to join our partners to lobby against the implementation of the new regs when we're already compliant, which will give us a competitive edge with our partners. So kind of an awkward thing we find ourselves in, but again, kudos to the foresight of the Paducah Power Board and anybody involved in the decision to be a party to that contract and that long-term decision that will provide not only a source of energy, reliable source of energy into the future, but we expect stability on rates well into the future as well. I think that's all I have.
Thank you. Any commissioner comments?
Yes, I have one. I just want to say that the majority of the board up here voted correctly on the amendment of the agreement we had with the Housing Authority. I don't know where my head was, but you guys voted correctly. That's it. That's it. I had one of those moments, and it's on record that I voted yes. But let's just leave it at that.
That's all right.
That's not where my heart is.
Thank you, Richard.
You're welcome.
Public comments, and we have a couple of gentlemen here tonight, and I'm not sure that we had a paper filled out, but John, Barry, you're pointing at each other. Mm-hmm. Rob, you're going to be speaking tonight? Okay. Sure.
I just wanted to kind of bring attention to, my name is Robert Berry.
Have to state your name first, please.
Robert Berry, and I reside at 4766 Buckner Lane. It's where Pines Road and Buckner intersect. And I guess I've lived there about 9 months now, 10 months, and we've had 3 nice big wrecks there. A couple of them have gone in my front yard, and another one has gone off in the ravine to the side there. I don't know if you are familiar with that intersection there. And it goes into the access road, Pecan, backs up all the way. And we're having some real problems. I have a family, and I'm concerned that there's not a flashing light there or some sort of better way to know that you stop at Pines Road and Buckner. And just kind of wanted to bring it to your attention. If there's something that could be done, or where do we start?
Rob had called me this week, and I told him to come here and talk to us. And I also talked to Rick about this. And did I talk to you, Steve? Or okay, it was just Rick about some of the things that we could do there to make that a safer intersection. And he does agree that there are things that can be done. And I'm sure he'd like to talk to you about that. Has Rick left? Do you know?
Oh, he's back in
I think that's the
conference room.
That's the intersection.
Okay.
A lot of times, vehicles will pull out. I mean, way past, almost out in the middle of
it's almost like there's 3 lanes there.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about, and it is.
It is very dangerous.
It is.
And the problem there is that intersection is so wide and loose that a lot of people don't even stop. They just slow down and keep going. Right. And then the traffic gets backed up on Buckner. Thank you, Rick.
How you doing? Rob Berry, how are you?
Sorry, I was kind of in a sidebar with Chief Berry.
Okay, sorry. Rob is here to talk about the intersection that I spoke to you about at Buckner and Pines.
Okay, Buckner and Pines.
And we talked about how wide that intersection is, which causes a lot of the problems and some of the things you talked about that maybe we could do.
Actually, the geometry on that does not meet any standard whatsoever. And you have, as you're coming in on Pines Road, those of us who travel it, it widens out very much so that if you're in a car, it's 100 feet wide across the asphalt. There's no markings. There's no what we call channelizing devices, little islands that say, hey, if you're going to go to the right, you need to get on this side of the island. If you're going to go straight or turn left, you need to get on that side of the island. You see it a lot at ramp intersections with highways. Actually, Pines Road is wider than the ramps that come in off I-24.
out on Buckner Lane. It also causes confusion with Buckner Lane because to the west of Pines Road, there's actually a sharp curve that comes around there, and then you don't know whether or not that person's going straight or whether they're coming around the curve, and then they're just going to veer off and come into Pines Road. Probably what really needs to be done at that intersection is we can do some things with paint, but I'm going to just be honest with you, okay? And we all drive cars, and paint does nothing for channelizing. If it's not going to hurt my car, I'm going to drive where I want to drive. Okay, people typically drive across a painted island because they're not fearful that it's going to hurt their car. But if you put a channelized island out there, a raised median, then they're going to actually do what that island forces them to do, and that's one, slow down, stop, look, and then turn. But right now, we have accidents in that area because it's so wide open, you can actually go through that intersection at 30 miles an hour, and I don't think I'm exaggerating, especially if you're turning right. Now, if you're turning left to come into town, that's not the case. But there's a lot of confusion there, and my recommendation would not be to paint the intersection. My recommendation would be to bring the intersection down to a manageable width and then channelize the traffic so everybody knows what they need to do to, I guess, navigate that area. So.
And just as a sidebar on this, you know, we have a lot of people that ask, can we ever get a traffic light at Buckner and Pecan?
I tell people my answer to that's anything's possible with dollars and dynamite. Okay, but we have to budget that. Okay.
Have we ever done a traffic count there?
A traffic count there at that point, no, we have not done that. But I can tell you when this at its worst. Yeah, it's the close of business every day, and then a lot of times you might get some traffic around the noontime hour. In there, you have a lot of people that's wanting to turn left, but you also have a lot of people that are coming down Pecan that prevents the left turn onto that, and then traffic starts backing up onto Buckner.
Have we ever thought of doing a study for that whole section there?
We could actually do a signal study for that, and it's probably due, but it's also going to be a budgetary item, and it'll be about $100,000.
I'm thinking of a study though for the sharp curve, that whole.
As far as
a
a corridor study, going through there and making improvements on that, no, we have not. And actually, I'm going to say a study's not really required. I would say an engineering design would be required, because if we're going to improve that area out there, it's about a 22-foot wide pavement section. It's one of our main roads. It has deep ditches on the right and the left, especially as you're going toward the interstate.
There's no wiggle room.
There's not a lot of wiggle room. It'll be an expensive project, but and then also you have the bridge piers on I-24 that narrow the gap through there, so we don't move bridges. And then where to terminate the project. If you start a project there out on Pecan and then start working your way back, where would you terminate that? Would you bring that and come down Pines across the railroad to 32nd Street, or would you follow Buckner all the way to Country Club Lane, where the curb and gutter currently ends on Buckner Lane? As you're going out of town, Buckner has curb and gutter that ends at Country Club Lane and then turns into a ditch section. So it's a big project. It would be a big project.
Well, and I think within the last week there was a pretty severe wreck there. I know the traffic was blocked right at Dove Lane. Yeah, right there. There was someone in.
The concern really is just I have a 3-year-old and we have a family there, and I'm just worried. You know, at midnight last January, somebody ran right off beside our driveway into the culvert, and I know a police officer a couple years ago did too. And it's just safety of the family. Just something to mark there where it.
A friend of mine ran right through that into your driveway too.
Police, maybe, Chief, maybe we need a little more enforcement there.
But my point is, with the increased traffic that's going to come with the educational institutions that are going to be in the area.
Yeah, you have Murray that's going to initiate their activity there, and you could have a lot of traffic coming from Audubon to Buckner that way, and then also you have Mid-Continent that's going to develop on 28 acres right there on Pecan.
Could you just bring back a plan for us?
An interim,
plan.
an interim, I guess, a Band-Aid plan, I can do that. As far as the full-blown, that would get,
Require a budgetary.
anything beyond that is going to require some serious design fees and/or signal fees.
Okay, if we do something for that intersection, will that interrupt, or is that money not spent well if we're going to consider doing that whole section of road? That's what I'm trying to say.
If you were to put in a signal at Buckner and Pecan, that money would be well spent and not be you wouldn't have to redo anything there. Basically, the geometry you'd set up for your signal there would be sustained through any project that might be developed in the future.
But what about that intersection?
The intersection at Pecan?
No, at Pines and
At Buckner and Pecan, I'm stuck on Buckner and Pines. We could actually do that in-house.
Okay.
I mean, through our street rehabilitation and road reconstruction projects. We could do that in-house, but we would need to get, if this body, wishes for me to do that, I'll do that. But there needs to be some, I guess, public notification that what you're used to here is going to change. What you're used to driving here is going to change.
Okay.
Let's let Rick take a shot at what he might design in-house and bring that back, and we'll talk about the educational and the financial part of it then.
And this plan's just for the intersection area, right?
I think that's where we start.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you. Sir, did you have a comment? Come on, you can come on up. and we need your name. I'm sorry.
Conrad Rayburn. I drive those corners quite frequently. Mm-hmm. A three-way stop sign would go a long distance, at least for those who try and drive under the rules of the road. And that's cheap.
All right. Thank you, sir.
I have one more thing. And I started to bring it up under personnel actions, but I didn't want Tammy to break out in tears. Mm-hmm. I think that we would be remiss if we did not mention, probably before we meet again, Susan McClellan and Judy Nelson both will be retiring, and they're long-time valued employees of the city. So we want to wish them well and tell them how much that they're appreciated, and I don't think that Susan even wished to have a reception. I think finance will be hosting one for Judy, but
I wondered about that.
Susan was just going to slip out the back door, and I don't even know how long both of them have been here. They've been around as long as I can remember, and they've done a great job for the city, and they're very valued employees, and I think we would be remiss if we didn't thank them for all that they have done. But
thanks, Carol.
Thank you.
I can't say anything.
I know.
Meeting's adjourned.
Thank you.